And we are going back now to item number 3A1, presenters, Mr. Tico Charlie. Floor is yours again. If you want to continue on, or if you want to turn it over at this time. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Speaker, members of the 24 Council. Again, I want to thank you, and it was sorry I had to go into executive session, but I want to keep the confidentiality for all the service providers. At this time, I'd like to present Sonia Nez, our new broadband manager, and I'll let her introduce herself to you.
Yate, Shay Sonia Nez and Shia. Tanjikin in the sling got here, Glini Bashishi. Zanita Shedo, Kia Ani Edashanella, Chin Leader Enasha. And this morning, thank you to honorable council delegates for providing this opportunity to make our presentation on the Navajo broadband plan update. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Can you see the presentation? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So again, this is a Navajo Nation broadband plan update presented by myself, and then also Tico Charlie, Executive Director for NNTRC. Okay, so the agenda this morning, we're going to go over the vision, benefits, goals, and objectives, strategic prioritization, funding, next steps, and the proposed ARPA distribution. Our vision, first of all, is we want to increase the broadband footprint, the bandwidth, the speed, how fast the data is traveling back and forth, bandwidth talking to the capacity. We want to ensure the deployment of and access to competitively priced, affordable, high quality, advanced broadband services. And we also want to ensure infrastructure resources are shared. Okay, quickly go over benefits to the Navajo people. Why are we doing this? And there's direct benefits and indirect benefits. Not just, this is not a complete list, of course, but just a few examples. Basically, all things users do at home with internet connectivity. You can stream cooking shows, you can do-it-yourself videos, how do you build a cabinet, you can go on YouTube and the different videos out there that you can access. Self-paced learning videos for all ages, meetings, work, personal, there's just a whole list, and this is just a few. Indirect benefits are the economy of the grocery store. So this is what you don't maybe see on your phone, or this is what you see, maybe not directly see. So grocery stores, they ain't internet, convenience stores, gas stations, dining establishments. When you go to your restaurant, you have to slide your card, and if you don't have that, what do they tell us? Cash only, right? And you have to run to the ATM, but then the ATM doesn't have internet, so you're out your dinner. So Navajo entrepreneurs, I see them creating their websites and really running their business successfully, because of this internet. Also, Navajo Nation government services, central offices, agency offices out there. I was at DIT for many years. And I would see, get calls with the internet being slow at such and such agency office, and these offices benefit our people. And so we need to up those internet connections there. Chapters, of course, and then schools and hospitals. Again, this is not there's many more that we could list here. The goals and objectives for the Navajo Nation Broadband Office in NTRC, the whole team, is to centralize all things broadband for the Navajo Nation, funding sources, just anything broadband, the different plans out there. We need to consolidate those plans and bring them into one, and let's all be going in the same direction. That's what we wanted to accomplish. And then the broadband, that broadband is accessible at competitive pricing. Again, we want to make sure pricing is affordable and competitive to our people, for our people. And then governance and implementation, we want to, that's what the broadband office is tasked with, is the laws, regulations, policies, and procedures. You know, we need some guidance. We're maybe just running all over the place, you know, and so we need some guidance, some guardrails there to help us go in the right direction and get things accomplished. Streamline rights of way, access on Navajo land. I've been hearing a lot about this, you know, right of way. It's our project is in jeopardy because of right of way, and so that's something that we're really focusing on and pushing. And then funding, of course, you know, we heard possibly $15 billion to connect the Navajo Nation. So any funding out there, we're wanting to go after it, grant applications, you know, all that. So, and then education and outreach. We're wanting to educate the folks out there, educate the public, leaders, and that's what, oh, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, at the beginning of this, that also we sent out, along with this presentation, we also sent out that Broadband 101 tutorial that we put together. And all this is a work in progress. So, you know, we'll be adding to it, finalizing it, you know, and so that's part of the education and outreach that we want to target. And then the increased upstream provider, which is the link to the world to 100 terabytes. Right now, I believe it's at 10 gigabytes. And so we want to, I wish I could have put this in a, but think of it as on Navajo Nation, if we put out all these pipes with these big pipes, and we put out all these shiny broadband infrastructure, but if we have a straw going back out to the main internet out there, you know, it doesn't do any good. So we need to increase that, and that's what this is talking about. Increase that straw that's coming in, you know, and make it a lot bigger so that we can have more internet on the reservation. That is it, that in a nutshell. And then invest and deliver Navajo Nation middle mile. Be the impetus for service provider collaboration to deliver middle and last mile. We want to be the driving force to help everybody collaborate. Incorporate sustainability. You know, after this funding is gone, you know, how do we keep going? How do we keep broadband going? You know, so that's what that's talking to. And then last but not least is to collaborate with broadband stakeholders, the states, the counties, Navajo Nation leadership. You know, let's all work together, and that's what we've been hearing all morning. And then next we'll go into strategic prioritization. How do we map this out on the Navajo Nation? You know, what should go first and who should go first, and you know, and that's what this is talking to. Using topology maps, the landscape, the lay, the land, using heat maps, the signal strength. You know, how if I have a tower, how far does my signal strength go out? You know, where does it end? And those kinds of things we got to take into consideration. Also, factor in the land status, home site lease, state lands. You know, all the different types of lands listed here. Factor in the population, factor in first responder, public safety, of course, factor in the costs. You know, those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at as we get the prioritization, the prioritized list together. One thing at the top of the list I see is the chapters, because they're the hub of the communities, the Navajo communities. And right now, I'm sure we've all heard about the E-rate project that is currently out there connecting fiber to the chapters / libraries and Head Start. But we got to understand that that fiber is for education purposes only. And so right now, as the trench is open, when they're digging, you know, the trench is open, now is the opportunity, the best opportunity to put extra fiber in there to connect the chapters. And so that's what we're encouraging the service providers to implement fiber overbill, put extra fiber in there for the chapters. And then these are the other things that we'll be considering, you know, roads, the Highway 191 corridor, private homes, scattered homes, government offices, schools, colleges. These are all the possible places that we can connect. And so we're going to be looking at all of those. For the Navajo Broadband Office and NTRC next steps, as you heard earlier, we want to meet with each of the council delegates and the region leadership to develop a region plan. And we will come with recommendations, but we want to sit down and talk with you, your region leadership. And, we have, there's a service provider perspective, there's our perspective, but we want to know from your perspective, what are your needs out there? Where would you like fiber to go? Where would you like towers to go? Your region best, your community best, and we want to hear from you. And so we're wanting to start going out there. I believe May 23rd on, we'll start meeting with the delegates, and we want to start scheduling those out. So, and that'll help us finalize the Navajo Nation broadband plan, because right now we have different pieces, but we don't have all the pieces. And so we're missing your piece. And then, of course, we're going to go after funding. There's funding coming up, deadlines coming up. And so we're really pushing to make sure we don't miss that opportunity. And then laws and regulations, policies and procedures, we need to really get those in place sooner than later. So those are the next immediate steps that we're looking at to do. So, and that, most important, the proposed ARPA distribution. Now, this is something that we came up with. Of course, you know that the last mile has 40 million, the middle mile has 60 million. And what we propose is to take a top cut for non-region specific projects in each of the last mile and middle mile. And then whatever's remaining, we're going to do equal distribution to the 24 regions. And it is the majority of the funding will go to the regions. And so that's the proposed distribution. We're still evaluating the projects in blue there. We're still evaluating those. And so once those are complete, then we'll know for sure the exact number for the green section for the regions. And so that's the proposed ARPA distribution. And that's what I have so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charlie. Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, these are, yes.
Okay, thank you. That, colleagues, at this time, before we go on to the next presentation, is there any comments or questions at this time? Comments or questions? There are none?
Speaker, this is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Okay, Madam Chakrati, go ahead, floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Shadija, if you could keep that on the screen, because I want to ask some questions about that. So help me understand this. So it's saying right here, top cut, 519 last mile, 40 million, and then 5.21 middle mile, 60 million. That's 100 million. Just help me understand what those numbers look like. Are you talking about in combination the request for $100 million and then be broken down per region? I just need to know what these numbers look like, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or other comments or questions at this time, colleagues?
Speaker, this is Delegate Otto So.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Otto. So, actually, good afternoon. Honorable Otto So, floor is yours.
Yes, I was on the line earlier. I stepped out during roll call, but I've been on the line. Headed back to Winter Rock. One area is that what Madam Chair Crotty has alluded to is the breakdown of the funding source to the districts. The 24 district is very, very helpful. Reason why I say this is that I guess some even probably Madam Chairs, just probably going through their mind is that the expansions there and the numbers that will articulate the middle mile and the middle mile. One has 40 million, the other has 60 million, and that breakdown is very crucial because in the main legislation that's going through, the information of the breakdown is something that is that we need as policymakers. People are asking, and just to think about you have Department of Health asking for money, and has a certain amount that's earmarked for that. But what is the breakdown? And I believe that will answer a lot of our questions as policymakers, because that will determine how much area that we can impact in the region. And then I like the idea as the discussion came forth from the beginning, the planning of the projects based off of where we're strategizing on the funds, and how we're strategizing on how the dollars are going to be utilized and for economic purpose, benefiting economic zones and the homes. I know that we can't extend broadband to every home on the nation, but what is the strategic plan of the presenters for when it's divided up into 24, and that will allow us to look at the proposal and weigh that out. So, with that, I'm going to go on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Otto. So, let me go to one more member of the Naabik'íyáti committee, Honorable Elmer Begay, and then I will go back to you, Mr. Charlie, and your team. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay.
I was on mute. With speaker and other members of the Naabik'íyáti committee too. Congratulations on your appointment to Mr. Charlie. Welcome aboard. But my question, as you know, that I'm not sure if any of your employees, or if you look at your previous reports and what's going going on with the southwest part of the reservation, which includes Downtown, Tisto, and the Wells, White Cone, and Greasewood. As you know, that I've been bringing this up to the former executive director of regulatory and telecommunication. You know that I'm not sure if you're very familiar with this. We know that the 5 chapters that I have, we received a grant for broadband. So they did the feasibility studies and they did assessment. So the BIA grantor, they gave us a certificate saying that these things are successfully completed in the southwest part of the reservation. The 5 chapters is ready for a design build plan. So they gave us that to request for construction funds in this area. So now we have that, and right now though we try to give it to NTUA. At that time, we were told that they were the lead applicant to this broadband, but they never want us to share with their co-location. So we've been fighting with them, but lately they finally said, you know, what do you guys want? You know, how can we help you? And things like from there on, that was it. Though. But they want the money. They want them to be the contractors to build that the design build plan. But then they want to be the ISP, the internet service provider to that. But my intent is that we want somebody that can train the chapters, and then later on, maybe 2 or 3 years later, that we can be on our own. That's the whole intent of this local government. See, that's my chapter's goals and objective to that. So we've been looking for some people that can do. So right now we have the proposal that we submitted on our own for the 5 chapters as a charter to the Navajo Nation. We submitted to the ITIA, which is National Telecommunication Information Administration, the grant that was available. So it's still there, and they went through this 3 phase. So we're at the last phase that they've been reviewed. And then we have another one that we submitted to Arizona Commerce Authority with broadband, and they received it. And then they told us that they can award $10 million, but the requirement to that grant is that we have to come up with $1 million as a matching funds. The 10% that's needed for that requirement to receive any funding, that has to be 10%. You have to that's required as a matching funds, which we don't have. So we're at that point. We don't know where to go. We don't know how to this design, build, and construction ready. We have it for so many years, for so many months now. I don't think Navajo Nation is ready for those kind of a project that is construction ready, that is had all the design built plan for broadband, and that's where we got stuck. I'm not sure if you have an answer for us. And right now, with this broadband funding that we have, by looking into this both legislation, into this the 086-22, it doesn't specify anything with this a community that is construction ready. And I'm not sure the NAS administration know what we're talking about. Don't know what to do with a construction ready project on a broadband. And we know that Arizona State told us that, you guys are the last mile. You're the only Indian tribes in the state of Arizona that has a construction ready project. How come your own government cannot see that, not able to help you? So where do we go? So I think we need a lot of answer from you as a new director. How can you help us? And I'm pretty sure the NAS administration, Mr. Paulson Chacos, I hope that he's on the line listening. They didn't do anything with during the Mr. Vicente, and I'm not sure if Navajo Nation is very knowledgeable in this new era of broadband. So that's my question, and then if they can give us a good maybe guidance. And we know that we have consultants that are on the line. Hopefully they're on the line, and they know what to do. But it's just that the government here is not supporting us any way or another with this ready, construction ready, project ready, design build plan that we have. So please help us. And I'm not sure if that the Navajo Nation is really ready talking about this broadband. I'm not sure how much we're ready. I don't know how much we have knowledge on it about broadband. But right now with the Navajo County, they have that smart highway. They wanted to see if we can run from the I-40
Item by Elmer Brigade.
corridor. Hello?
Item by Elmer
Okay.
Brigade. That we're having technical difficulties here at the chambers. We all got cut off about 2 minutes ago. So what you stated for the last 2 minutes, Mr. Tico, Charlie, and the rest of us could not hear that we're on Zoom. Honorable Elmer Brigade, can you stand by to continue while we
Okay.
get this technical, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you, Speaker.
Sorry.
I'll stand by.
Sorry, colleagues, if you could stand by, we're just having technical difficulties here at the chambers.
water and electricity projects that we've been reviewed did include projects that were on the portal. That's to the line of water. The 257 listing, as well as some of them that were.
That's me.
Were put under this.
Can you hear me? Thank you. With that, Honorable Alma Brigade, thank you, committee members of the Naabik'íyáti committee members, thank you for standing by. We just had to deal with a technical difficulty. With that, let me turn it back over to Honorable Alma Brigade if you want to restate your question to Mr. Charlie, and then I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Charlie.
Speaker, appreciate the time you gave it back to me. Although to Mr. Charlie, I'm not sure what part of it you didn't hear it, but like I said, that the southwest part of the reservation, the chapters that I oversee, or my region, which is Dalcon, Tiso, and Wells Cone and Greasewood area, and we have a design-built plan for broadband and so internet services using the wireless too. So it's difficult to have signals in these areas because of the volcanic buttes that we have. Once you go behind a butte, there's no signal. So, but there was a design-built plan that was there was a grant that became available. So that's how we did some surveys, and that's how these assessments were done. So through that, we got a successfully certified it by the BIA, tell us that we're ready for design, build, plan, and construction ready funding projects for broadband. So we don't know where to take it. And with these grants, we've been just writing grants. So we have a grant that we applied for them with the NTIA, that National Telecommunication Information Administration. And we have it over there as a charter for the Navajo Nation. And then at the same time, we have a grant that we have, and who's been reviewed by the Arizona Commerce Authority, and they gave us saying that they can award us $10 million, but it's just that they want to know that where we could that grant requires a 10% of a requirement for the grant. So if they can give us $10 million, we have to come up with $1 million, and we don't know where to get it from the Navajo Nation. So that's where we are for so many months now. So right now, I think the Navajo Nation are not even ready for any kind of these kind of grants that are available. And so right now, if you look at all the legislation that 86 and 87 in it, there's no funds that are appropriated to make a project ready for any kind of grants available in broadband. There's all these grants that are available out there for broadband. But the Navajo Nation, as a leadership, there's nothing to where we can make a project, to make a construction project ready to qualify for a grant. Then our minds are not there, or leadership are not there. It seems like our consideration of applying for other available grants are not there. So that's how that's why we don't have any $1 million as a matching fund that is required with a grant that is being awarded, that's going to be considered to be awarded to us. So I wanted to know that how you could, as your leadership, what kind of leadership do you have? How can you help us? And right now, I was talking about the Navajo County. They have the Smart Highway, and there's a grant already available through them. So in order to get broadband to go into the southwest part of the reservation, we need some matching fund to do that. They're willing to give us that. And that's where the $1 million that was required, and we don't know where to get it from. And that's with the Navajo County to serve us. So right now, as we know, the NTA, we've been unsuccessful from the leadership of NAS administration and as far as the government, that NTA will not allow us to use their co-location. And all they're saying is if we can construct it, give us the money, we can construct it, we will operate it, we will be the ISP to that. That's agreement to do. That's the only way that they can, willing to help with us. But like I said, that ISP is going to be very important to the certified chapters. We want the certified chapter to be trained to be their own ISP. That's the reason why we want somebody that's out there that can train the ISP to the chapter so we can run our own to be an operator and also to collect billing. So there's companies that are out there that's willing to do it, but we have to have some funding available to them to teach us. So how can you help us? I think we're going forward with this local governments and where the nation, where the leadership has not gone that far yet. But my chapters are looking forward to that, to move forward with the local government, certified chapters to move on. I don't know where your mind is. I don't know where your goals, your leadership is. I think we need to share that with us as from the broadband and then telecommunication regulatory part of it. So I'd like to share that with you, and I'd like to hear your response, positive response to this. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. With that, let me go back to you, Mr. Charlie, you and your team for a response. Floor is yours.
I'm going to go ahead and give Sonia the response back on the funding here, and then I'll respond back to Council Delegate Begay.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Crowdy and Otto So for questions on the funding. So I brought up an Excel spreadsheet to better explain how we want to how this works. So, for example, so are you able to see my? I hope you're able to see my Excel spreadsheet. For example, this project here, if we took out 4 million at the top, that would leave. So we're just talking the last mile portion right now on this side. So that would leave 36 million for the regions. And if you take that 36 million divided by 24, each region would get 1.5 million. And the same way on the middle mile side, you start with 60 million. And if we do a top cut of 4 million, that leaves 56 million left over for the regions. And you take that 56 million and divide it by the 24, and it comes out to the 2.3 million. And like I said, we're still evaluating these projects up here, these non-specific, non-region specific projects. And for example, if this were to drop to 2 million, then of course the money per region would increase. So it's just a matter of what number we end up with, the final number up here. So I hope that helps.
Mr. Tico, does that conclude your response?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, she's was asking if that explains a lot of things.
Okay. Let me go back to the floor. If there's further explanation, then I'll come back to you. I do believe that was a question that was from Madam Chair Crowdy.
Speaker, this is Delegate Cruddy. No, that does answer my question. But I do concur with Delegate So that we would need a breakdown, and we've continued to ask for a breakdown in terms of what projects are being submitted and what regions they will support. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. Let me go to, I do have Mr. Tom Potero who'd like to respond to as well. Mr. Potero?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Delegate Bigay na atin kidya hadala beso matching money dinenige haila bas sotanoya legislation 0086-22 page 20 page 20 of 33. If you look underneath line 15 3 bakagiya 20 million for the Division of General Services for matching funds for the Federal Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, IIJA match requirement. Expenditure category 520 as set forth in J-3 with administrative oversight by the Office of the President, Vice President, legislative oversight by the Resources and Development Committee. Akwaigayadi 100 million up in Lach 20 million they need Kadia a nigit sa aita base hala shin to Navajo Nation that budget that ani sa matching requirement but no a ana base ba ala hatotzo akwaita the 100 million up on the lot 20 million on that by matching you begin all yes. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. That, Mr. Charlie, any further response?
Thank you, Speaker. I wanted to add to Honorable Karati's question. The project listing, we have project listing, yes, but that's the reason why we want to go out and meet with you and what are your projects that you would want to see. I mean, this is, for example, in the spreadsheet right now, it says 1.5 million. How do you want to spend this 1.5 million? We'll have some recommendations, but again, we want your input, and then we can come to an agreement. And how do you want to spend this money? This 1.5 million for the last mile, the 2.3. In this example, these are not the final numbers, but it's somewhere in this ballpark. So that's why we want to meet with you to get those project listing and get on the same page with your community.
Okay, thank you. That concludes your response.
Thank you, Speaker.
All right.
I'd like to respond to Ellen Begay real quick. You heard what Tom had said here, that we can work on that, the availability of it. But the other portion of the NTIA grant and we understand that very well. We're still pushing those things forward that have been pushed here, but we're also working with the service provider, especially with NTUA. We're going to start regulating a lot of things that where everybody plays on the same playing field. And through there, we're going to be regulating that portion on there. And that way, they all work together on there. No one's going to monopolize it or dominate it. That's why I want to go out to each chapter and why I want to talk with them also, so they know who I am and we can discuss what else is going on there. And at the same time, our goal is to get more harness on who's around, who's coming on the reservation, because we have a lot of outside consultants that are coming in. They all want a piece of the pie. We know that. So we need to kind of harness everything on there together and make it, I guess, quicker and more standardized in our practices on there. We got to follow the rules on there. Because a lot of times they're going around the different programs and going directly to leadership. So that's where we're going back and tell them, no, we have a process. And we're going to be laying that out a little bit later down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. That, colleagues, we go back to floor. Is there any other further comments or questions at this time? Before we go on to the next presentation.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes,
Okay.
Honorable Elmer Begay.
Thank you, Speaker. Although I had that the response on it. So right now, I don't thank you for Mr. Patero. That with the 86-22, there's a line where in there saying that there's a funding available for matching funds. Because right now, so how many people on the reservation, or how many like for myself, that's listed there. So we gave us this. Miss President came out here at NAS. We told them all about that. We have it. How come it's not listed in there? Like how other projects are being already in there. That they have the project numbers in there, and they have the amount that needs in there. And how come we've been sharing this with Mr. Presenti about ours? It's not even listed in there, listed specifically in that legislation. And now we just have to go with the asking for funding. I thought, I know some of these delegates that already have their projects that's already the project name and amount is already set for them like that within this legislation. Why we've been doing this for over a year and a half, it became available. I think that you just say that you have to be available for this. Why this project is not even listed in ours. We're the only. I would say that we're from the Navajo Nation. We're the only project ready, and we're the only one that will have a design build plan on this for broadband for the southwest part of the reservation. We're the only one that's like that. I don't know why it's not even listed. That's my question. And then the other one is so what about the is there any plans that Mr. Charlie, when you can be available to the southwest part of the reservation? Because we're ready. I told you. I just said that we have this plan, and nobody comes around and look at our projects and to do some reviews and evaluate. Or the Navajo Nation hasn't really come out and evaluate our project ready or design build plan. I don't know what kind of plans you have. You can come and visit us, or we have to request for you to come out here. And I think we're like I said, we're ready, and we should be the priority to your visit to the chapters. And then what kind of support do you have for construction ready projects like broadband? And I think we need to really sit down with us and what the plans that we have, like looking into being our own. Is there somebody that's out there, a company that's out there that we can look into the way they can train us for the ISP? Is it feasible to do that? We need all these. We need some people that has knowledge of this, the regulatory part of it. How do we do that? I think we need some assistance with the from DOJ to visit our project out here. So I think the last thing that I wanted to hear is from you. I want a date and time when you're going to be available to our construction ready project. These are for people. These are for recovery. How come you're not even making this a very a sincere and very a project that's ready, and to make yourself a priority to this project? So that's my question, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, colleagues? If there's none, we go back to Mr. Charlie, and then we can go ahead and go on to the next presentation after your response. Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Speaker. 24 Council delegates and Council Delegate Ellen Begay for Elmer Begay. I know the project you're talking about, project already down there. And what I was doing was I was talking to the provider that's crossing I-40 over there, where you can try to link up to. And when I was talking with them on there, they specifically told me they were not ready yet because all their fiber connectivity along I-40 has been maxed out. So that will isolate you to a certain portion on there. And that's what we didn't want to do because I know you got big plans out there. But I still would like to come out and talk with you again. And there's several different I guess IT groups that we can go to that can help you. But I wanted to make sure that once it's hooked up, you have an access out because redundancy is one of my biggest things and stabilization. So that's why I was talking with the company that was along I-40. But I will be out there. I will text you a date, and I'll even go down to the time when I will be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charlie. There's no other comments or questions. This whole presentation is kind of basically in stages, so there might be additional questions that might be answered next to as well with our next presenter. So let me go to Mr. Tom Botero at this time from the FRF office, who is the executive director there. Mr. Botero.
Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, I've been listening in on Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez, their presentation. We've been working together between our three offices and trying to really kickstart the broadband initiative for the Navajo Nation. One thing that we have sat down, as Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez said, last week on Wednesday with a lot of the stakeholders, and then a follow-up meeting with NTUA. And the big question that comes up is right-of-way. All of these projects are going to need right-of-way in order to proceed. And so we do have a proposal that we sent over to Legislative Council. We had originally started with RCD 104-10, and that segued over to RDCJN-17-20. So we want to work with legislative to open up the process for not just broadband, but all ARPA projects, so that whether it's a water project, electric project, or broadband project, all of these things that require right-of-way, we need to make it simpler and faster. There are provisions that have been made in the past that will allow right-of-way to be processed quicker, and we're trying to capitalize on that. We also have a one-stop shop concept that's out there that we are still trying to set up a coordination with them. But in the end, it's going to come down to addressing the right-of-way issue for the Navajo Nation in order for these projects to be successful. So we are looking forward to working with the appropriate oversight authorities to get the approvals that we need, setting up the systems within the Navajo Nation to make sure that right-of-way gets completed. And we're not just looking at Navajo Nation projects. We need to look at the county projects that are going to be on Navajo Nation, the BIA projects that are going to be on Navajo Nation. When these projects are awarded out to sub-recipients, if we award out to any of the broadband entities that are out there, Verizon, all of those guys, we're going to need to make sure that we coordinate the right of way for them. So we're having our team take a look at that so we can try to get those ones done. The other part is that when the broadband project is completed and people have access to it, we need to make sure that as we're planning it in the process, that when it's created, that it's affordable for people to use. A lot of our people are on subsidized programs. Even today, the news came out that President Biden is creating, remember when everybody used to talk about the Obama phones? Now they're talking today about the Biden net, which will allow free access to internet. So these two had the yago ya hit the natural data we have to set it up in a way that people can use it and access it. It shouldn't just be for people that can that have a high earning job or something like that. It should be accessible to all of our students, to all of our people that are going to online school. A lot of the videos that come with going to online school require that the bandwidth be at a certain level. And one of the things that we have to be cognizant is the ARPA and then FRF rules require that any system set up have a 100 megabyte minimum speed. But when we were meeting with the service providers, they're already saying that we should shoot even higher than that amount, 500 or 1,000 or even higher, so that the speed is built so that it functions long after the ARPA funds are done. It has to be built for the future in mind. I think one of the mistakes we've made in the past is when we receive money, we just met the minimum requirements. In this case, I think we can work together collaboratively between the Navajo Nation and all of the broadband partners to set the standard high enough so that we don't have to say we're going to improve the system later on. So that's one thing that Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez are focusing on is what greater benefit can we bring to the Navajo Nation long term as opposed to a quick fix right now. The other one is that this system, when it's created, we have all this money out there. There's an initial cost, but long term, you get your operations and maintenance. If one of the line breaks or something, the wind blows over something, later on, when the requirements go up, the upgrades, I remember when the flip phones first came out, because technology has outgrown that. Deep broadband had the other one is there were questions in the past on E91 rule addressing AAD 8622 giya. Asati base of bachana that broadband the broadband na nishigiya le e-rate stop is not on nish sagi it the season days nish hajo as kane that the nish quite and days nish con habahonosin. My team from the FRF office is also working on contracting. The base of Belanda is contract at the Dolnish, other contract at the Yago issue hit out skiso, and the Nanhandal, Nishigin Nanhanda, Shibich, and that the Yolish, Adat, Agita needs a broadband office. I just wanted to add that little bit on that we are working collaboratively as a team. But one of the things we have to recognize, honorable delegates of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, is we need an approved expenditure plan so we can start these projects. The need is far beyond the 1 billion that's left over. You could spend 1 billion alone just on broadband. So we need our leaders to come together and come to a decision because it seems like a lot of money, but when it comes down to it, the clock is ticking and we just need to work together to get something passed so that these projects can begin. So a lot of the stuff that broadband is also working on is it's an opportunity for us to improve our partnerships with the county, Apache County, Navajo County, Coconino County is coming to the Navajo Nation, but we really can't work with them until we have a budget to work with. Somebody joins you, asks you to come, let's go have dinner. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patero. With that, colleagues, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the floor back over. Are there any comments or questions at this time?
Speaker Daniel, this is
Speaker.
Delegate Cardi.
Delegate So.
Okay, with that,
Delegate,
I do have Honorable Madam Chair Crotty, Honorable Otto So, and Honorable Elmer Begay. Madam Chair Crotty, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Potero, for your presentation. So I'm going to say this as straightforward. As you're asking the council to pass an expenditure plan, delegates are asking your office to give us a breakdown of those projects that are being presented from the Office of the President and the technical team. I really, at this point, do not understand what is the challenge. If you want the funding and the expenditure plan, you by this time should have that information to give that to the delegates for requesting. This is multi-million dollar expenditure plans that you're part of requesting, and I don't know how else, Speaker. What are the options? We talked about this at the workshop or the work session last week. We're asking again, what programs or what are you going to fund? The response being that we need the money first to build up on what we're going to spend. That is an unusual request. That is a request that up until this point is not an acceptable request, because we do have broadband projects and understanding the last mile, the final mile, the middle mile. Where are these projects set to be expended? What regions are going to benefit from this? It's broadband has now become it's like pulling teeth to get information on how, as elected officials, we can support our communities. And it's getting to the point where our providers then are providing the information, but only through a confidential method. And where is the public interest in this? What office, other than the delegates who continue to ask questions, what office is going to advocate for those families that throughout the pandemic have had to struggle to get any type of broadband? We saw in Delegate Kealan Begay's communities, a father and a mother building up a little fort made out of rock. We need to know what regions are going to get the support that they need. We understand there's not enough funding, and that's why we need a plan, because the next step is this other $1 billion that's available. I believe it's $1 billion for tribal broadband. Then what is the plan to capture those dollars? And so I would say any request that you just made, Mr. Potero, please see that you have a part in the solution. Give us the information that we need. I do have my broadband listing, as Mr. Tico Charlie has requested. We've met multiple times with N2A Wireless on the project, getting all of the information. We've requested from your office expenditure plans to move forward. So again, what can you do from this meeting to get us the information that I need to make sure that the broadband needs are being addressed, not only in my region, but in an equitable manner across Navajo? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to back to Honorable Otto So, and then I'll come back to Mr. Patero. Honorable Otto So.
You guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And my question is along the same line as Honorable Crotty. Is that when can we get that breakdown? And off of the breakdown, the listing of what you're going to fund. Because Madam Crotty's right that you're asking money for money, but you don't have a project listing. What are you going to fund? Haish e peso e pinach e ya kwape shibit no e shin shibe a husband no e ya danizin from the requesters of the $100 million. Alcohol. Second of all, the broadband office. Is the broadband office the office that makes the proposal of these projects? I thought the broadband office, Mr. Potero, your office is to make sure that all documents are, supporting documents are attached to these proposals, and to make sure that you're crossing the I's and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It sounds like you're part of the proposal. It sounds like you're part of writing this proposal. And I'm wondering, is that your responsibility, Mr. Potero, to be the project manager for the agents that are requesting for the $100 million? Because the broadband office has a lot of money. I believe it has $180 million. And it sounds like that, Mr. Potero, you're becoming the project manager. I thought that you're just heading that office there. But back to the presenters, the breakdown of the region and what projects are listed to be funded under this plan is something that we are asking for. And then along with that, could you get us that listing by the end of today so we can make a sound decision on this, because broadband is very, very important. Oh, that's just asked for $100 million. That's all they're doing. And or maybe go back to, maybe look at it from your household view. The mother and father would say, where are you going to use these monies? It sounds like that's what we're asking. Because we as elected legislatures, the delegates, we're held responsible at the local level too. The breakdown in the region of how you're going to allocate these dollars is very, very important, because one thing is said here, by the time you get out there, it's a whole different thing again. If you can get us that breakdown by 5 o'clock today, that will be wonderful. That way I have something to report back to my community. Go on mute.
Thank you very much. That, let me go ahead and go back to Mr. Tom Potero. Mr. Potero?
Mr. Speaker, members of the council committee, I will work with my team and see what information we can get as far as what Delegate Crotty is asking for, I think we can break down the broadband and some of the other projects and indicate that this is how much it's going to cost to fund all of it. And that's where I believe it's going to be difficult to try to break it down into an exact number for the 100 million. I have been working with Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez, but I'm not a project manager. So all of the proposals and stuff that have been submitted for that has been on their behalf. They've done a very good job in a short amount of time to try to get this information updated. You have to remember there was a big paradigm shift as far as the broadband project, where all of it was going to be channeled through into UA. We listened. And so we made a shift of it to where it's going to be going through the broadband office in coordination with the Telecommunications Commission office. So we will work on that, and I'll try to get everything the best that we can by 3 o'clock tomorrow. It is a lot of information to sort through, and there's multiple people that we have to go back through to get this information, but we will, with my team, try to dissect it as much as we can and get the information to you of what's available so that we can get everybody on this, this track together. So Delegate Crotty, we will work on that for the broadband portion of it. As far as advocacy for families, we've met with the Alliance group. We've met with the two universities on the Navajo Nation. I don't think that we're insensitive to the needs of the Navajo Nation people out there. I mean, we're Navajos as well. We came from out there as well. You know, I understand well the people that are trying to get water now. I keep telling people I never had running water in my parents' home while I was growing up. So it's not that I've become desensitized to it. It's just trying to allocate these resources to cover as much of the Navajo Nation people as we can. The other part of it is when we talk equity, we really must be cognizant of the fact that we're all at different stages of development as far as infrastructure on the Navajo Nation. The needs of the larger communities, the Chinlees, the Tuba Cities, the Crown Points, the Shiprocks, those ones are far ahead in the game where they're now needing upgrades of the systems that they do have, as opposed to the Sweetwaters, the Black Mesas. Those have not been developed for the longest time. The people in the former Bennett Freeze areas, everybody else that where the clusters of communities have been, they so we need to be we need to recognize that those that don't have it are the ones that that we're proposing to provide something to. So equity is very difficult when you have people that are already having these services over somebody that has never had them before. So that is what the challenge that we have is, how do we develop a plan to try to balance it out between those two extremes? We've had people that are second, third generation waters that have running water. We have people that have never had water. You know, I work with Navajo Technical University. It surprises me that in 2022, we still have first-time college students from the families on the Navajo Nation. That's the same way that a lot of our people are that are out in the rural areas. They've never had their water. They've never had the broadband. So that's what we're trying to address, Madam Chair. Delegate So, again, I will commit to having our team work to provide some sort of information by 3 o'clock tomorrow on the broadband, FRF, all supporting documents. The approval of these followed the process that was approved by this body. Eligibility determination, you only required the budget form 1. That's just basically saying this is the total need that we have. So the process that was created and that was approved by the Budget and Finance Committee doesn't require budget breakdowns. There is nothing beyond the budget form 1. You know, all of you have worked through the budget process. That's like approving the entire comprehensive budget with just a budget form 1. When you go through your reviews, you look at the budget form 1 to say this is the overall. Budget form 2 is this is how we're going to do it. Budget form 3 is this is the resources that we're going to have. Budget form 4 goes out and brings in detail up to level of detail 6 for this is how the money will be expended. The review and approval process doesn't require any of that in the budgets. So you're asking us to create something that was approved through eligibility when the process doesn't allow for that. So be careful because we now have to go back and redo the work beyond the
Speaker
process
Damon,
that
this
was
is
approved.
Delegate Crotty.
No, Mr. Patero, hold on, please. Madam Chair, McCarty?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I'm listening to Mr. Platero, and be careful of what? Is my question. I think Mr. Platero needs to remind himself that those documents, yes, were approved by this body, but as delegates, we can request any information. So what do we need to be careful of? His office and was hired for transparency, for education, and we are requesting documents. So what do I need to be careful of? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Platero?
Madam Chair,
Question, no clarity.
Madam Chair, the information of the process of getting this done doesn't go into detail. So now you're asking us to go beyond that, which I am perfectly fine of doing. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to answer that this is what we have to work with. So we are going to go back in and do what you requested to the best of our ability based on the information that we do have. But just be aware, as I said, you know, the process that approves the review of all of this doesn't have that detailed information. So we will work with you to get the information that we need, and we will get the best answer that we can for you on the part that's going to be there. One of the things that I've asked repeatedly is let's establish the true need of each of these areas. Okay. And that's what we will try to do in the report that we give to you. As far as the writing of the proposal, Delegate So, I in my former position as the director for Division of General Services, I did at that point write a proposal for cybersecurity that I coordinated with DIT. But that is the only proposal that I've done up to now. I have not been involved in any of the other proposals because as Delegate Crotty pointed out, you know, we are at the other end of it once those are approved. And I've been careful to not get involved too much in that. The proposals for the broadband were not prepared by my office. It was prepared jointly between Ms. Nez and Delegate Charlie. That's not the Mr. Charlie. So we kind of have to be independent of it, but I do understand your request for information, and I will work with you to the best of that. As far as Delegate Otto So indicating there's 180 million for broadband as of this very moment. The only amount of money that's been allocated to the broadband office is $2,725,789, which was to approve the setup of the broadband office because the Navajo Nation hadn't funded that before, and that was done through the administrative regulatory support costs. So we would love to have $180 million. Unfortunately, at this point, we only have 2.7 million for the office, the broadband office. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Delegate Otto So.
Thank you. Honorable Otto, so I'll put you back in the queue. Let me go to Honorable Elmer Brigade.
Richard, good afternoon again. That although the members of Naabik'íyáti and Mr. Patero and then Mr. Charlie. I have a question regarding the, that I don't think my question was being answered. But Mr. Patero, you're saying that your team, ARPA team, and then the expert on these projects. And on the broadband, that I don't know how, like I said, how many months we have this design build plan for the 5 chapters that I have, and I don't know why it was not listed in this legislation 8622. We know that we were waiting for this is like I said, this is construction ready. I don't know why you didn't put that in there as a cost to that, how much we would need to fund this. And then it's not even listed. And I don't know where your team were to overlook ours is construction ready. Like I said, even the Arizona told us that how come your government is not funding this or specifically looking at your projects and able to help you. Or even this is like this is being certified by BIA. It's a grant. I don't know why you guys are not looking at it. How this team has hold your experts in this broadband. So that's the reason why that we wanted. I would say that the listing is important. I agree with my delegates, because that's where my question is: how come we're not even listed in there? How come the amount that's needed in there is not even there? Or for the AI, you can apply in this 86 AI for if you want to apply for other so you have to apply for other. And that's one question. The second one is we all know that I've been questioning NTA and then the broadband office and then also the regulatory part of it, that during the CARES funding, NTA was given funding for that. And what they did is they just ran a line from Dalcon into towards Bird Spring. It's almost about 23 miles. And they're running, they're converting a single phase line, and then they're converting that line into a 3-phase line. And when they're doing that right now, they're running the broadband or the fiber optic through with it. So they're getting ready for they're already with this CARES funding. They're already running the middle line into Bird Spring chapters, as far as I know, this where it can go, but later on there's no funding for that, the last mile. And like you said, that Mr. Charlie, you just mentioned that we're looking into where nobody's going to be monopolizing this project. This is what's already happening. And I don't know why we as delegates, we as my people from here, have to look in there and say that the question this is that NTA and ARPA office, and the expert over there, like how President Nan said that they're expert. Why did NTA bring in approved it that they're gonna monopolize this? Because I thought NXA they're just put in modem or increase to increase the capacity for that. That's how they're doing this. And then also the new hospital that is coming in, they're already putting their cost together to run fiber optic in there. And then the 109 quarters that's going to be building in AI within this legislation, part of it was already out there too. They were already going to build in this. That's how much funding they were requesting for it to hook to construct the whole 109 quarters with fiber optic, and they're gonna be running that, and with this ARPA funding, and we don't know if those communities that we moving, or the people that be moving into that 109 quarters, are they gonna be the people from here, or is it gonna be from Ghana somewhere to be moving in? This is Navajo Nation funds. I don't know why your ARPA teams, the expert there, I approved this project. This is Navajo Nation funding. If you're an expert about it, you should know that. So we're the ones that have to look out for these guys, for you guys. Of course, I don't know why you guys have teams that you guys say that it's for the Navajo people's money. And then the other one is, I don't see any funding. That's how many, there's where the listing comes in again. I'm asking for a listing too. See how many projects does the ARPA, under this ARPA funding, how many broadband projects is out there to make it ready for grants that are going to be available out there. Make this a project that's going to be ready to qualify for grants that are out there available. Can you give me a listing? How many projects does the Navajo Nation has that we can make that project ready for a grant that's out there that's available? So we don't have to use the whole ARPA funding. We can get to a point to where that these projects can be made ready for all these broadband, millions of dollars, billions of dollars out there that we can, that we can cost share, we can get that. How many listeners do you guys have? If you guys are, I'm asking your experts, your ARPA teams out there. DOJ, how many did they look into that? How many projects? I want to listen by tomorrow too. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, let me go on to Honorable Carl Slater, then Honorable Otto. So, Honorable Slater.
Speaker, real quick.
Yes, Honorable Chairman Yazzie, I can put you in the queue.
No, sir, I'm on call. Okay, FYI.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That Honorable Slater, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you for the presentation. My question is related to the $20 million for the IIJA matching. I'd like to know, what is the timeline for that program relative to the ARPA dollars? So, we have to have money encumbered by the end of 2024 and then spent by the end of 2026. Is that consistent with the IIJA timeline, or would we be constricting ourselves? I'm trying to contemplate whether we should be using ARPA dollars for this, or we should be using our own internal Navajo Nation funds, which would be more flexible in terms of obligation and spending timeline. And then I'd like to hear, what is the proposed valuation process? When you go into the exhibits, it says that NNTRC and the broadband office will review proposals for the middle mile and the last mile. And I think you're hearing a lot of anxiety from delegates related to that review process, because it's exclusively going to be in the hands of the executive branch, and there will not be, say, a balance or a check on how those funding allocations are made. In the proposal or the exhibits, the attachments, it says, to the best of your ability, you will have it be, I don't want to say equal distribution, but spread across the reservation, say, for equity impact. I want to get some more clarity on what that review process is going to look like. And will it be done, say, administratively, as in it won't need to go through another FRF initial eligibility determination? And then lastly, I want to impress upon the NNTRC and the broadband office that we do need an amendment in this legislation to ask for some sort of trade-off. When we invest in someone else making money, and if we're not going to own these assets, we need to be able to get some sort of benefit for either our citizens or for the government. And that could be reduced rates, that could be free internet at the chapter houses. There's a lot of different things that could be done. And I'm not seeing that in the legislation right now. So I would highly recommend that NNTRC and the broadband office develop that legislation so that it's put into law, and that those would be negotiated prior to the dispensing of any funds from the government to ETCs. That said, it's my strong preference that we would fund these proposals, own them, and then we can lease them back to ETCs or whomever. And you can still do that with the middle and last mile. So a couple comments and a couple questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That let me go to Honorable Otto, and then I'll go back to Mr. Botero. Honorable Otto.
Yeah, I did, Nana. Not in Otto. Just wanted to allude that or on back to the issue of the 180 million. The 180 million that was set aside for overhead. That's what I'm referring to. And I didn't say that there's 180 million dollars for broadband. Oh, the other is that Mr. Patero, Mr. Charlie, Bandai kid. Benigeni Eholong. The Nepanita. So the Ne Yinda kid nan hit the snip. High lot of kid of Tinta. And Quagga, better watch out, Hot Niniki. Is there a repercussion that you're talking about, Mr. Patero? Is there something that maybe your office may not try to address if we don't do something? Remember that. And we all work for the Navajo people. And even Kodoti, Bahnadik Kidiki, Bahndaki Kid. What ego pay his unequal ya, basement anapasla. Nay, you're a tribal employee that's supposed to provide service and any information that's needed to appropriate funds. And then this particular discussion, you're asking your agent, the agent that's online, is collaborating with your office to appropriate $100 million. Ako, Asia Nipa has only the pass Belada is named. Nadik Shidige what ego has on in here in Hasala. I believe that authority is granted to tribal council. That's the reason why we're asking these questions. Just tell us. I don't want to do it. Yes. And in Nike later, the Neda Shinsago, Nahot Iki Egi Pa Yale. How can we get broadband services out to the community of Low Mountain? How can we get better the broadband system in the larger community? I really hope it's not a discussion of disrespect and so forth. But Tom. Behes ani do Congo. Di jo nepa. Beso chido tahi epa yelti. Uncle ho epe koko e yakon be. Behes ani nikesi. That's where I'm trying to stay within my realm. I'm not trying to overstep anybody's boundary to become the project manager. I'm trying to stay within my realm to be the legislature and understanding where these dollars are going to be spent. I do like the fact of the equal distribution to the area, to the regions, to 24 regions. Because, yes, the larger community can benefit off of improving the broadband services. And the other community with the extension where it's needed, maybe based off of the need of education, work, non-niche. So, what is that? So, as they in that way telehealth can happen. What is go what up Uncle Epe what not have street or list. So, so
Thank you, Anabata. So with that, let me go back to Mr. Tom Potero.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti committee, I apologize if I misspoke or how it was received, how I responded to a question. I think we're all at a level of frustration with this whole process, and I don't think it's just my side, I think it's both sides. But we do need to work together. I work for this council since the beginning. I worked for the council before and the council before that as well. I have nothing but the utmost respect for the Navajo Nation Council. And if I misspoke myself, I apologize. But I was just trying to make the point that we have access to information that was set up a certain way. And when you're asking beyond that, we perhaps should take a look at the process. But beyond that, we are more than willing to work with this council to provide the information that's needed. I have worked with each of you, and I respect the work that you do and the people that you represent. And if I misspoke myself, then I apologize. But we do need to move on and come to some consensus to get this one done. On the equal distribution, in theory, that's something that could work really well, but in practice, it's very hard to do. And we have tried to make the best effort to comply with those where it's possible. But the communities that we work within, you know, if you have five chapters, but yeah, the need is different from each of those. And when you're trying to distribute it equally amongst those, it's very difficult to do. So we will make every effort that we can. And that's why the broadband plan was proposed that way as equal distribution, but it will require an assessment, an overall assessment. So please be aware that we are doing the best we can. Ms. Nez has been on this job for about 6 weeks. Mr. Tico Charlie has been on this job for about 6 weeks. And we're all trying to work together to make this happen for our Navajo people. I don't think there's a, you know, we're trying to be adversarial. It's just that we need to somehow come to some sort of consensus so that we can work for our Navajo people. And I am a tribal employee. I've been a tribal employee for almost 40 years of my life. You know, and so I understand my place within this whole cosmos of working for the tribal government. So I understand that. And I also understand that we have to work with leaders, and I also understand that we might not agree all of the time. But and somehow we have to come to some sort of agreement to get these things done. The other part is the 180 million. If I misunderstood, again, I apologize. All of that information as far as expenditures on what's been set up for those, I emailed to the 24th Council. It's also available on our website, and we are working with our team to have that available so that it's distributed on a regular basis. On the question of the review process and the amendment, I'll go ahead and let Mr. Charlie address that. Delegate Slater's question on the 20 million on the timeline. I think what we should be aware of is that we're now in May. We basically have 6 months left in 2022. We have 12 months in 2024. We have 6 more, 2023, 6 months in 2024. So 24 months it's here. Within CJY 41-21, when you did the enabling legislation for the ARPA funding, you did put a provision in there that at the end of the second quarter, you would review all of the allocations again. So if it were approved today, we would basically just have 24 months to implement it before council gets a chance to review it again and say, these are the changes that we want to make for that, which is then in line with the 31st of December of 2026 to make any actual commitments for it. So we just need to, I'm hoping I answered Delegate Slater's question, my delegate from Round Rock, that the timeline does overlap and there is a provision within the enabling legislation to do all of that. Delegate Bigay, Naabik'íyáti, the design build chapters, both Ms. Nez and Mr. Charlie has committed to going out there to get all of the information. There's different pockets of information that's available out there and nobody's really forthcoming with all of that information. And so we're doing the best that we can. You know, we're the little mouse running in that little spinning wheel trying to get the information from everybody. When we work for the Navajo Nation, information we don't want to share it with anybody. And so that's where we're opening doors, we're creating relationships so that information can be gathered so that we can make an informed decision. We will check with the state of Arizona on your process. We will get that information there. Also, be aware that the match portion of it only became an eligible project when the Treasury Department updated their listing of what can be available. So the match requirement wasn't there before. And I believe I emailed council that the new updated list. So some of the old numbers, when you see those like 1.11, 2.22, those kind of things, those are related back to the eligibility determination sheet that's out there. The reason that it's so important for those is each of those categories is reported separately when it goes to the federal government. So it's kind of like our tracking system of information. So the broadband office delegate bigay nido under that neta dashnish anan khishing latashti yedo ya ndita batch nisho anan taya November at out dishnish base of the kojich that anigi is kendo nish be landat yo leishike as delegates. I apologize, but you're familiar with the process that it takes to set up budgets. Budgets yago insert yago, then you go through a whole process of setting those ones up. Personnel janana so we had to create a special process for PCQs so those positions could be established. None of the procedures were waived for finance or personnel, so those took some time. Contract at the Diago, Belanda is now ARG Tilo, the Hadonish, Adonabelachin, on the Yesige, Kojibin Dailish. As far as the what allocations have been made as far as CARES, we weren't involved in CARES. Those reports were handled before this office came into existence, but but there are 2 allocations to NTUA for broadband last mile, 5,370,432, which was approved through the CARES defunded. Part of that payment has been made to NTUA. Well, my office issued a request to them for project reviews, and also within that was a request for breakdown of where those services will be provided. And once that's available, we'll have that posted on our website. The other project that's been funded with the ARPA funding is the broadband other projects, $9,679,381 also to NTUA. Those projects are also on the list along with the other utility projects. NTUA, there's also projects that went out to water development that we sent notice to provide the information. And then there's an expenditure plan that's available underneath the economic development, and they liquidated their amount. So we'll be contacting them on how to do a review of the expenditure of those ones. I don't know how many broadband projects are out there. That information is being gathered as quickly as possible in a manner that will allow us to answer your questions. But to be truthful, we don't have all of the answers right now because this department has only been in existence for a short amount of time. There was nobody, it's kind of like having your all of your chapter staff being vacant, and then your chapter still had to function. And so that's kind of the situation that we're in. Miss Nez, in the short amount of time that she's been here, has been on information overload. She's reached out to the state, she's reached out to the county, she's reached out to the federal government on funding. She's coordinating with them. I've sat in on some of those meetings. And Mr. Charlie, when he joined on board, is also you know, we don't have a separation of this is your place, this is my place, and we work collaboratively. So with that, I will go on ahead and Mr. Speaker, request Mr. Tico Charlie to answer the review process and also the amendments to ask for the trade-off that was suggested by Delegate Slater and how it can be owned by the Navajo Nation. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you. Council Delegate, Honorable Slater, the review process of a lot of things, we're still going through those. You know, they're subject to change on there. We did go through and kind of see how we can start pulling certain projects away from the service providers and kind of put it under the Navajo Nation, and we're still going through that and see what time frame we can start taking over on that. But in the process of those, I'm still looking at a lot of the OIMs of how do we keep it sustainable? Do we have enough staff to come back and make sure it does stand on its own under the Navajo Nation, because that in itself becomes a bigger entity and a bigger goal that we're looking at. But that's what we're doing right now. And part of that, that's what the broadband office is looking at also. That's why she's talking about the E-rate and how we can coordinate that across with the service providers going from government to government. The other portion on there, I think we learned a big lesson also of the NTUA portion on there, where the 12 fibers have become questionable. So in order to do that, we need to, I guess, relook at a lot of things that were going on, and that's what we're doing right now. And I have been working with Tom quite a bit on that, on the legislative, on reviewing a lot of the language on there. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. That, let me go ahead and go back to the floor this time. I do have Honorable Vince James and Honorable Keelan Begay. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James.
Speaker,
Yes. Honorable Vince James, going twice.
Speaker, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So now the speaker, Ado, Chair Sinko, thank you very much. Again, Ado, I have a few questions that I just like to get to the point and see what kind of response I get back. And one of them is in regards to the listing. That'd be my first one. As you guys are aware, you know that I've been asking for a detailed listing since our first work session of legislation 0257-21. And again, we have not received any kind of a detailed listing regarding these projects for that legislation, and then for legislation 086 again. And that's the difficult part of trying to find a detailed listing and trying to request for it. Are we going to really get it this time? Is the question that I always ask. So that's my first question. My second one is in regards to land withdrawals that are done. And this goes back to the listing, your detailed listing of projects that are going to be funded, that are projected to be funded. Why are we not receiving any listing of broadband towers or any upgrades of existing land withdrawals that have been done within the chapter vicinity or around the chapter itself? And my third question is I know that Cellular One is really beating our Navajo Nation technology office and beat us in many areas. And I say that because there's quite a bit of Cellular One towers that are on the chapter compounds, and chapters are not receiving any funds. But yet we have Cellular One tower on chapter compounds, and they're making the big bucks and no funds are coming back to the chapter. Are we going to somehow come into a negotiation or an agreement regarding those towers that are on chapter compounds? And what is the plan for that? So that's my third question. My last question is, can you please share with me and the rest of us, of my constituents, the chapters that I represent, on all the information on where my 5 chapters will be getting broadband assistance with the information that you've shared with us. I do represent Kindutachi, Ganado, Cornfield, Steamboat, and Jedito. So where is it that this information that you're sharing with us, my 5 chapters, fall into play? And I get asked that, at my chapter meetings, planning meetings. And so that's one of the biggest concerns that is always brought up to us, is that we receive ARPA fundings to serve all the Navajo people. And how are we making that progress to get to at least majority of the homes, or to at least improve the broadband service for majority of our Navajo people throughout my 5 chapters and throughout the Navajo Nation? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vince James. Let me go down to Honorable Keon Begay. Honorable Keon Begay.
Speaker. Speaker,
Yes.
this is Dr. Keon. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this check. Ado kudos and that nothing deep is was on the clinic. Ado kudon is not an Ado is not a snack is to other sell your projects, broadband projects. No, bayat your contact coaches. Ado Naabik'íyáti Hidata Hasita no Seniki. To that end, Kudo Naka, these are the area Kudo Naka push this. Of course, we cannot just get to this. And so then now, all stuff on that horses. To other, oh, you've been died of Kitty, Ashnantano Seniki. The one area, all Kudo needs to recommend a non-strict on the the coordination is not as not we just need an overall plan. It I see job yaki koni so ya eto this ani it on action link AJ baby destiny the creation could Mr. Charlie do out of Miss Ness the creation basically in the house season at all. Although they've been attending some of the meetings, such as the counties, other other carriers. I mean, I'm not vouching or supporting any single carriers, but I have some communication to some extent to ask how they based on his Akoko yego intahas tiki at large of niche to aid the snow by yesterday. For example, my area, Low Mountain, doesn't have a permanent cell tower. Across the Navajo Nation of the 110, how many chapters don't have cell tower? I think that's the one thing that we need to push. That would be my recommendation and my position. If the carriers believe that there's not enough households, no. Well, we'll find somebody that's willing to just help Navajo rather than just looking at the money. So the low population of communities, which each in the cell tower operate as on the O&M national and how many customers? Internally, that's another situation. As you know, that each tower, they have to pay a certain amount of funding for lease. Maybe the Navajo Nation needs to really consider, based on the population, if it's just across the board, those carriers that doing business at the low population is not making enough revenue. Well, like Chinle or Tuba City or Shiprock, the carriers over there are making a lot of money with the amount of funding that the other carriers are paying at the lower population. So I think that needs to be considered as stuff based on population. Least fees to show adjust with the growth of population. So those are some internal areas that we got to deal with. Although chapter has added his bells and these lands have to be withdrawn. Maybe the Navajo Nation needs to just hire somebody that's willing to identify the areas that a lot of these expansion needs to be done at the chapter level. Because that's one thing. Carriers, they don't want to do the job identifying where the best location and doing the clearance and everything, but yet a company would just come on in and then just set up alongside the newly established tower of another company. So over that age, although the other one mandate, and I still stand on it, and I still want that legislation speaker to be developed. Why can't we have that legislation developed? Demanding, yeah, because it's the Navajo people's money, because we're just doing everything on behalf of our Navajo people. That there be co-location and roaming agreement to be established if they receive funding from these public funding. Okay, if you're going to get funding, public funding from the Navajo Nation government, these are the first thing that you got to do once your tower's in operation, is to do co-location and roaming agreement within 30 days. Or that you need to have a plan already, because it takes time to develop the tower. So that's another recommendation. So again, that legislation request has been submitted twice, and I'm not sure why. Legislation, speaker, mandating the co-location and roaming agreement. Because we can't really just do a lot of things based on what we think, where we neglect to think about the situation at each of the communities on the Navajo Nation. So, speaker, so those are some areas initially. Mr. Charlie, Ms. Nez, I did make a statement to them to say that, well, I see that I see a land agent, his better house in Nikita Koshi, the at the Nisha called only Hichonashke Hajo, the Naslisto Hajon Hase, put a plan out for each of the council district area, which are the chapters that are in dire need of cell service. Not just for the company to pick and choose where the populations are and where the growths are. Everything, all the Navajo Nation, all the 110 chapters needs to be viewed equally. So it quite geeky sto bahanana sito the speakers, but nonetheless, I mean, we'll continue to meet with the county supervisors. They'll provide a recommendation. Not Navajo, the national communication. Base of 53 million. Other two directives speaker council at the end of a spring session there was two directives made to the public school and the BIA and the BIE school. So I'm not sure if that's where Mr. Patero is referencing of BSNAS reaching out to these organizations of how they're helping the local communities of where their schools are located. What is the solution in expanding the broadband? The smart highway from the state level. State the person that use for broadband. I'm sure some of them are being considered for travel reservation. The state level to the governor's office. So let's not have a lot of these companies or private entities to really force us to do certain things. We know that it's only going to sway their position, but we really need to look at the people, the Navajo people. And then I notice there are some people that they're saying that they're Navajo owned. Navajo owned. And we have a lot of Navajo people or owners or operating a lot of these telecommunications. We need to get them to the table and see how they can help our Navajo people themselves. Help our Navajo people, their Navajo people. Yes, we welcome those bigger companies, but they really need to just have the internal Navajo government really make these decisions for the ownership. On the Navajo Nation, how is it established? And then we the nation can start leasing them out. We're the owners, and then we're the operators, and then we take care of the maintenance based on how much that they'll be paying the nation to host be on these towers. So I mean, there's a lot of option, but again, all of this, I have confidence in Mr. Charlie and in Ms. Naz, and that they will provide a concise, understandable, clear plan to the Navajo government. Based on I think that's where we really need to start going. So speaker here.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and go back to Mr. Potero if there's any response.
Mr. Speaker, members of the ARPA committee, it's very interesting to listen to this discussion. We actually have more in common as opposed to we're all trying to get to the same places, just that we're taking different routes. A lot of the recommendation that Mr. Delegate Kialan provided is stuff that Mr. Charlie is working on already. So I'll leave the regulatory questions to him as far as cell towers, the chapter representation, broadband assistance, overall plan. We'll let Ms. Nez chime in on that. The question on service areas, all of that, I'll leave to those two. But a lot of the conversation is really demonstrating to me just how much we do have in common. And Delegate James, we will work on that listing. We can do that for 8622. I can't really speak for 8722. I don't have much information on that. On the land withdrawal process, I will go on ahead and work with the one-stop shop team that is working on that process. Miss Valinda Shirley, my little sister Valinda Shirley, I will get together with her, get the information and get that over to you. But Mr. Speaker, if I may, I'd like Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez to answer the technical questions on regulatory information and the broadband plan. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the council. The tower siting listing, the legislation, the portion of it is already drafted up. It's already over at the president's office to review it right now. As a matter of fact, I just got a text that Chief of Staff wants to meet with me over it. This is the co-location, the tower siting. We're trying to push that through, and it will become before the council here. So it's already in motion right now. I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Nez over the broadband.
Honorable delegates, I think what I'm hearing about the listing, excuse me, and I think like Mr. Platero was saying, we're all trying to get to the same thing in different directions, and the exact questions that you're asking about, where are my 5 chapters, where are they on the list, and all that, you know, and I wanted to make sure that I have your input before I put this list together, but we can put the list together with what information we have right now. And like earlier they were saying, the information is hard to come by. It's interesting, but we will use what we have to put that listing together.
And the portion, this is Tico again, this is the speaker. The portion of the regulatory portion on that, we're still going through that, and that's what we're consolidating a lot of stuff with to bring down the cost of everything, start regulating all the telcos on there. So that is still in motion right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That, colleagues. Colleagues, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to the floor at this time. Are there any other further comments or questions at this time?
Follow-up,
Speaker, this is Delegate Slater.
Yes. Honorable Vince James and Honorable Slater. Honorable James.
Speaker, thank you very much again. And then my colleagues, Council Naabik'íyáti again. I've been trying to ask this question, like I said, since legislation 0257 work session has started. I don't know why it's being avoided. I don't know why I can't get a direct answer. But can I get a direct answer? Where does my 5 chapters, Kindatachi, Ganado, Cornfield, Steamboat, and Jedito, fall into the listing? I mean, I just need a direct answer that we're not part of the listing or we are, and where we're at. I just need that. You don't need to avoid it. My question that I've been trying to ask since legislation 0257 work sessions. Thank you, Speaker.
That, I'm gonna go to Honorable Vice Chair Slater.
Thank you. I had asked a question about what the review process would be for the middle mile and the last mile proposed programs within this broadband plan. And I don't think I got an answer on what that's going to look like. Right now, it seems like it's an allocation to the broadband office, which is good. That's a neutral party. But I want to know, as oversight as an appropriator, what steps are going to be taken to evaluate proposals and what is that intake process going to look like? If it's not totally fleshed out yet, I would just like to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Araso. Can't hear you.
Auto.
Okay. Oh, out of the 120 million, the 20 million relating to a cost sharing, and that's what Honorable Slater spoke to, relating to, can we use other funds for that per is that an option? But a 20 million identified, yeah. But 100 million sinelo nothing thing bishma unbekahot so what up peso. And this will answer Key Allen Begay's question relating to his region, and Honorable Vince James according to his region and all the delegates. And the 100 million he nothing tingo at zoko what's now 4,166,666 will be divided up into the region based off of the middle mile and mile. Anyway, but one of those two. In each region will total an amount of the amount that I spoke to, $4,166,666.67 for new construction purpose, for upgrades, for new extensions or possible extensions for economic development purposes and cellular tower purposes. Had a constituent I talked to as I got coffee. And what are you guys discussing today? Should you know? Oh, today is an interesting topic pertaining to broadband. Oh, we really need that in our areas up here. Some of these areas, they're in the dark zone. The major lines. And such as tribal programs in the large community. Some of our tribal programs are still on the frontier system, especially in Tuba City. Frontier, once everybody gets on frontier system, the internet starts to shut down. And with this, in the regions that have frontier services and so forth, I hope it upgrades their system for that purpose. And whether it's broadband through NTUA, there's Frontier, and there may be other companies. But to try to get to improve the system for that purpose, for health purposes, for educational purposes, for business purposes, and for tribal programs. remember the ARPA, these large communities have almost all the tribal programs there that are lacking internet or that need some sort of upgrade. Ko pasne neyin da iski ko even na ko ishin shivin na ko hashi yadi kito trying to get answers, but the number is going to be about $4.1 million for each delegate region for those purposes, and I think that is very, very critical because you go to Chin Lee, it's the same way. You go to Shiprock, St. Michael's, these funds will go to those areas so that they can improve the system there. I don't know whether it's through an executive branch program, a judicial branch program, and legislative branch program, and the chapters. I don't know the next. I don't know these still pertaining to fees and things like that. I think we really can't it's up to the provider what they charge, but I think if a discussion is alluded to all the providers to try to provide a reasonable base cost that will be very, very good for our people. I will allude to one of my neighboring chapters. 2007 or 8 fiber based it chapter house shouldn't it. To this day the chapter house is never connected fiber control it. At the time I was talking to the chapter officials. I went there for a grazing official meeting and they indicated that it cost too much to get connected. They had full strand of fiber over there. And that's in my colleague's area, but he has the housing area there upon coal mine. NHA, the relocatees that relocated into that compound. I don't know that there's proposed business site leases there, and it could very, very benefit. They could benefit off of this, and many other communities like this. Even now, what is the number? Projects that's all I was looking at to see what were the numbers, and I used my math skills that I learned in 6th grade to get this number on my own here. So, but without being yeah.
Thank you, Anabalo. So with that, let me go back to Mr. Tom Patero. Mr. Patero?
Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, my apologies to Delegate Slater. I did forget to have our team respond to the review process. Delegate James, let me first respond to yours. As I spoke earlier, our team from FRF office was committed to providing some information by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We are going to have to work with multiple agencies to try to separate it as much as we can. Right now, I believe we are going to be able to break it down by agency, but we'll make every effort to break that information down into chapters and then consolidate all the numbers for the overall proposed legislation 8622. I will go on ahead and defer the questions on the review process to our team, Mr. Charlie and Ms. Nez, as far as also the allocation of the funding for the broadband and the other questions that were posed at this time. Mr. Speaker.
In regards to the review process, we're still working on the process. It's like you said, Delegate Slater, Honorable Delegate Slater, that it's still not fleshed out completely, but we are working on it, and it'll be a competitive process for sure.
Anything? This is Tico. Again, Mr. Speaker, delegates. The review process is still going through the process. We found out there's a lot of entities that bypass the system and go directly to leadership without finding out what's all really going on and what they need to go through. We do have a process within our own NNTRC. We have 5 commissioners that are very unique in their positions on there. Each one has a special skill, and they use that, and we run it through them. They also ask certain questions also, reviewing the process. So we're developing a roadmap between the broadband office and NNTRC, what they're going through.
Thank you very much for that response. That, colleagues, I'm going to go back to the floor. Is there any other further comments or questions at this time?
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Eugene So.
You saw that. I I'm beginning to feel that I just don't trust nobody no more. Not even one person now. I couldn't station songs. I can't about it. Oh, you not these crack. Yeah, some song. Is our government like that? Is it that we don't trust nobody no more? That's it. I'm a real bad not. I don't have to know how to about it. That's what I'm getting at. The other need. But is it for our own election, or is it really what we can't trust these people that are always present to us? For the last 3 years and 4 months, see that's what I've been observing. A man lives so on this kid. It should be that way. We should be all one. All Navajo people should be one, not excluding any one of us. But what other than Texas and nonsense, just listening. These all corn laboratories are all because I was a hotel yard based on the hot icon had as the sun church on the yard. I think now need that. Could and hello, I could all the or that I anyway in later trial has broadband. That kid, he's a spider that don't reach down Myrtle, Rampasture, or odd. But I've been understood this. And we say this money belongs to the people, but we're not going to make that way. So hold on, Lisa. So everybody, we'll see maybe 4 to 5% won't get the benefit of this 1.8 billion.
across the board, because we can't help those people living in Chicago. If you pay that, then electricity pay that, they don't know what broadband is. But I in the case had any all I according to that, I can't deal with all you never got that. So it's really hard to really get to the heart of the people that really need it. So I feel that we could do that, but then again, we're in a race. Broadband, I think we really need these things. I need data. Data basically cut on the outside world. All that I want this case of honestly, I conflict. I need to tell you. I just hope that I maybe that's the reason why I didn't want to defeat candidate again. Because me, I trust almost everybody. I told me trust this in the long this case in general bonds case. Though it should all lotta. Though it should no insta. Though it add last sister. But that's how I see people. I don't know. Is it a man the wrong world nonsense that a big about? And he needs in Halom. I believe that these people know more about us consultants than no. I see at the husband, that is calling it home. And the question after the day, Nisha. This all. I say, Nina, I was at this key to try to cover everything and try to satisfy all the 24 Navajo Nation Council. Well, she out there don't listen, but that's what they're trying to do. And I feel good about him. Tom Patera, he's got a head on his own section. He's got a thinking that to put things together for the people. Just putting things together for them, that kind of a mind and making it happen. So because is all I kind of feel somehow sometimes when we really dig into petition that I should need what end. But for me, we're just I don't quantify it like I don't Ecuador not yet on this. Dig a question about it. Now it all should be now just you know better big up by radio not and just was I say me. Now let in the ben I see it. Now we should use this money right away. It seems like never got it. I'm sorry I have to say this as a chief, but it really concerns me because I trust people. But I'm just kidding. For other should those the photo she said no in the zone should not other don't send that all. So that maybe I'm made from a different people, but that's how I am. Any other way hospital, I want this money to go on the ground. Since it's not no, we had to do it. Last year, why now not all based on not count. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene. So, colleagues, are there any other comments or questions at the time before I go back to the presenter?
Delegate Yellow Hair.
Honorable Yellow Hair, go ahead.
Nana share to the speaker share. Pero agenda kudonka. Papa from Dai out of 24 council. I don't share in there. It's not strong. Then we did Jimbagata. Holiday Nasa. Here could also part of broadband has Yego Bendatil and some Bantas case. Though she today yet. She entire 110 chapter operations. I use that Sagi purchase order earlier. And literally all the chapters. Just put it on their site, their account number and update account numbers. Add up it a thought of total amount. Out of that subdivision, the card or the total amount, cell tie and broadband. Look at that on this case. If everything is possible, with the community development to implement the purchase order through the controllers in office with the budget forms too. The in the hot in South Aside home and no that is but either on there's a lot of the overlaps. These are basically that your army here is kid out there. These are now when the chapter assistance expenditure plan if it's not obligated or encumbered. The unrated June 30, 24 debate or us no yahalne certified chapter on Lenita out of place of June 30 to the Yos 80. The actuals 80 day or 80 things upon Nahaton Ada reallocate back to the Navajo Nation Federal Recovery Funds with a construction contingency expenditure plan. Could your base about stated is given base of the economy here in the lot. Only June 30, 26 in the Sahani Yahado in sort of peso. Digitalia Koyo, Bahoni Translation Ani had Ada seriously like a hard law. No time will let on his peso. A by ST. Anyway, people were just like South time, between Whipwell and Pinion. There's no signal then equated with the law. Kingston's or the emergency that you let then. Le blue will say on the body of South Tar, you can get back on the signal. I don't know where the deep body area doesn't get any South Tar units and let's go there. I don't know where they're going to displace the card for you. Other South Tar we need to bear population with the share on isn't it ladder. South Tar is made for the emergency. The law of the because she kesa Ireland not on this or about that not even in South Tar so we need up there. Or to population day happening yet. Policemen are also that in the war store. What area about this? Store a zone hard on this on is town patrol. You know this is canteen I don't know your purchase order that such a the county system should be comply with this account number that on what that's about in case it is town patrol. What are such a rough draft in the in that is to be equipped as a detail. She can later look to where the president is done. No, because I think that's software the resolution. I wanted to use a American Rescue Plan Act fund. 80 use the sleeping song, so we don't have to go use funds for cessation fund or permanent funds. But quite enough. So the quite idea start with a evening now. You could basically this in the NEP the NEPA. This fund is for the Navajo Nation government operations. A person had it only job had a deal not on it all. I don't know, share don't sag on the Tom, thank you for your great help. You know that machine. Couldn't say that I about him. East Coast Charlie Neto, Sonny and Ned, Tom Patero, and Joe Thompson, Yoba Shinson, Land and the Shin Other Yo. So the answer of a hill team and do not be had be cut. Either Yahon told my Shinson hospital, share on Sodole, a share speaker, sudden Annie on Sodole. The never has the art in the dream, doubt that was go artist at on the constant Navajo sovereignty had any be it or about art. Nahas the consonant, only chapter passage seen. She fought chapter of the under us. Hey, So that's that hot edity. Then on the team. Machines kid a supplemental for me. Side at 18 other goodness. This current at 0 and a hundred. The at a ton of skin live on other have water shade then. The water or you can topic then or this is not honestly here. I wanted to know kind idea basic on NATO. Thank you very much, Speaker. Thanks a lot, again.
Thank you very much, Neil here. Are there any more comments or questions? All right, we go back to the sponsor. I mean, the presenter at this time. Honorable, oh shoot, Mr. Potero, floor is yours.
Mr. Speaker, there's no write-in provision anymore with the Navajo Nation election, so please don't put me on the spot. I do appreciate the acknowledgement of the work that our group has done. It is a group effort. Needed acknowledgement. We appreciate it, and it's a good way to end this discussion. And then Ms. Delegate Yellow Hair, Mr. Charlie do Miss Nez, dil nishno I thought you had z and not the dinko but it do also hajin abiga hajin basal bend on the shape and yeah what Nahanda had aya caution arjun the cell tower the ninigi hashing and the has the Asian skating dot and Heidi you see all this I don't Naabik'íyáti on what ask Kate need never saying at ask that deal nish. I can't speaker.
Speaker, are you still there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Potero. With that, Honorable Yellowhair, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, my follow-up. Kwajiki, excuse me, my colleague, 24 councilman. There's two of the legislations right here that will have those two documents. But in reference to that, I respect you, 24 councilman. I really support a legislation 086-22. I don't want to hurt your feelings. This is my best choice for my people up there that they have already submitted their budget proposal. You know, Chiti in also based upon non 80 ARs. But giant snow, now, condition, and $1,000. With that, by saying from councilman Steny, his name, the shade and the bundle, the shade. I want to sort on and out of it. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. God bless. The equal distribution that can be applied to the funds to be all expenses came to sell and also broadband. You know, how said it of the other on the Tom by saying because it's just not as I have been at it on the honorable exchange with us. And that's the key out the gate. Once all, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Unreal here. Is there any other further comments or questions at this time? Before I turn it over to Mr. Potero to close out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti committee. I think we are walking away from this with an understanding of what is expected for us to reply back from the FRF office and the rest of the Navajo Nation executive team that put this proposal together. We will do our best to get the information to you as quickly as we can. And I just received the email from legislative that the special session will be going on Friday. So to consider the legislation. So we appreciate that and your support. I think this is a good discussion. It's a healthy discussion. We may not always agree on how to get to where we're going, but we all agree on that we need to get there. And we can get there by supporting one another, keeping each other accountable. I was talking to Delegate So earlier. I was like, so I think that when I was growing up, I remember my aunt saying, and so I acknowledge that, and we can just move forward, do the best that we can. We're all here for the Navajo Nation people to get things done for them, and we get there by supporting one another. So we appreciate the time from the Naabik'íyáti committee, the delegates that raise questions. We will take all of the questions under advisement and be ready for Thursday and Friday, and work together for the benefit of the Navajo Nation people. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Platero. And thank you very much for your team too as well. Also, Mr. Charlie, Ms. Nez, and Ms. Thompson for presenting here today in the discussion, the continuation, discussion on the broadband expansion and also guidance that the Telecommunication Regulatory Office and their commission has been given. Now we know that we do have a broadband office, and I think what things is coming away is just some of the follow-up that you're going to be giving, and if that information can be given over to Chief of Staff so she can send that information out, Mr. Platero and Mr. Charlie. Then we can go ahead and move forward from there. Colleagues, if there's specific questions that you're asking that need to be followed up on again too as well, please do not hesitate to reach out to our office so that we can help assist in following up on that and that further guidance. So from that point, colleagues, I think there's the question of the follow-up and consideration is what we'll go ahead and move forward and wait for on from the FRF office and from the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission that's held and led by Mr. Tico Charlie at this time. So from there, that information will be distributed. If it is provided tomorrow, we can go ahead and put that out. As you know, the legislations for both 0086 and 87 will be going before will both be going before an Naabik'íyáti committee this coming Thursday. There is that petition with enough signatures right now to hear the legislations. I'll be directly as a request from any delegate to put a petition forward. So again, colleagues, a continuous discussion for broadband services is ongoing, not just ending here today, but definitely from what individuals want to go ahead and see what's in their area and what is going to be completed, either in any case, whether it's in legislation 86 or 87 or any other area that needs to be discussed too as well. So again, thank you everyone for being a part of this discussion here today. That, colleagues, there is the moving on down to announcements and close of work session. Is there any further announcements at this time?
Speaker Kellen.
Honorable Calum Gay on announcements. Floor is yours.
Just announcement, going back to the session, the other area that I like to request on behalf of the Navajo people and the chapters, you know that I always say we need to get the chapters involved or to be involved. We need to disseminate some of these critical information to the chapters because there seems to be left out on a lot of these development. Maybe Mr. Charlie, Mr. Patero, do maybe one session making a presentation and update report to the community, to the public, so that way we're not being considered that we're not doing much for the people or the zone the land in the bells and yard going out of the Bachunda Auto Bachun so yard to listen and I don't get cut now maybe in form of in writing. Baby, not or it's not it after the unshaked and then give it to son that we know so yard so it is request a speaker.
Hey, that request, Mr. Patero has heard that request. Mr. Patero, any response or?
Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, thank you, Delegate Kialan for reminding us that is part of our charge with the FRF office, and we will coordinate with the broadband office and Mr. Charlie's office to get information out there. I appreciate the reminder. Yeah.
Thank you very much again on announcements. Any other announcements at this time, colleagues?
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Speaker.
On announcements.
Yes, Speaker, I did send you an email asking if we can get an update from Intech on what has been happening with the coal there in Wyoming and in Montana so that we can update the delegates, as well as the update on the helium. And I believe that Intech did do a purchase recently that I wasn't even aware of as a shareholder, Speaker. So if we can get Intech to report to council on what they have been doing and update council on where their budget is at, Speaker. I did send that email out, and we did get clarification on whether a shareholder can share information with council delegates. My understanding from the email that was sent is that they are supposed to be updating council, and that as shareholders, we can't share information, which is really kind of ridiculous. But I can request that Intech do a report to council. And so that's what I'm requesting, Speaker. I did send that email to you asking if we can add that to the next NABI meeting. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Speaker, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all I just heard was thank, and then you went out.
Okay, colleagues, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Madam Chair, Charles Newton, I did indicate that staff is following up on that request, and when we get more information, we'll definitely respond back to you on your email from there. So we are following up on that request, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Speaker.
That, any other announcements, colleagues? If there's no other announcements, we are having Naabik'íyáti committee this coming Thursday. Looks like we'll be having a special session on Friday. What? 14 signatures so far. So that's being sent out. I just want to say thank you again to the staff for being here this afternoon here in the chambers with us, for the continuous presence, Mr. Patero, Mr. Charlie, again, welcome aboard. I know I've worked with you a long time there at Sacred Winds. Ms. Nez, Thank you very much. And Ms. Thompson, I don't know, you never introduced the other. Who else is here with you?
Mr. Speaker, part of our technical team at the Navajo Nation Fiscal Recovery Fund Office is Mr. Max Bighorse. He's a professional engineer that will be heading up the technology regulatory unit within the Indian FRF office. Mr.
Okay.
Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bighorse. Thank you for being here with us in the chambers too as well. That, colleagues, time now is 2:39 p.m. We'll go ahead and adjourn this work session. Have a good day. See you when you see you. Safe travels, everyone. I know that there's a number of everyone will be traveling to their different places, just different destinations across the nation. Kat, go on it.